so much for being here. I know many of you in the room. My name is Steve Price. My wife Carla's out front. She was helping get folks in. As many of you know, we lost our home in the wildfire. And so, we're here to tell a little bit about our story, and a lot of folks here to help you with, kind of dealing with that one-year anniversary that's coming up. Before I go too far, I want to acknowledge a few folks. That's too far. Not quite sure how that. Bear with me, guys. Hey, Wayne, do me a favor. Go back and hit home. See it on the keyboard?
Oh. I don't know what home is. I don't work Macs.
I don't know where home is. We all get that.
There we go.
There we go. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Oh, the one that says home.
The one that says home. Perfect. Let me hand that keyboard. Hey, before we go too far, we want to just say a huge thank you to a few folks. First, El Paso County. Without El Paso County, gang, we as folks who are impacted by Waldo just couldn't have got through it. And we know that as soon as this event happened, El Paso County stepped right in. We were participating, many of us, Carrie, Carla, Masami, many of us participated in the Disaster Recovery Center, and we want to just thank El Paso County from the bottom of our hearts, and all the folks, Daryl's here, Sally Clark, Peggy Littleton, all the folks that have worked so hard. Nancy, thank you, with respect to the county. And right now, I want to turn this over to Carrie so she can just say a little bit, and we've got a couple things we want to do.
Hi and welcome everyone. Can you show me if there's anyone new here tonight for the first time? Good, well welcome. So I just want to take a minute. We have at United Policyholders something that we call now the Extra Mile Award, and for our Roadmap to Recovery series, for individuals that are not a part of United Policyholders or volunteers of United Policyholders, but who work for or volunteer for other partner organizations who have come alongside and helped us help you, and for those individuals that have really gone above and beyond. And the first one I'm just going to present in general so it'll make it on the video because she's not here tonight. None of you have seen her. She's behind the scenes. But Betty DiGiulio with Woodmen Valley Chapel and the staff here, they have given us the use of this facility 12 times, and that's a big deal, and have been incredibly gracious and flexible with us. And so Betty has been behind the scenes making that happen and moving things around and accommodating us. So I want to give her a thank you, and we'll make sure that this gets to her. Excuse me. And then, with El Paso County, Nancy's going to have to get off of her podium back there and come and accept this. Nancy Nelson has been here to video, I want to say, at least 14 meetings for us with the county, after hours to the wee hours sometimes. And in addition to that, has stepped in to help those of us who are technologically challenged and just have a warm smile and always be here, and has also put all of this posted on YouTube so that everybody can see it and see it again. And so thank you so much. This is for you. And one of the things about disaster recovery that I'm now learning is that many of the people who work in the different non-for-profits and communities, you really see what people are made of, and they really step up. And Nancy's an example of that. Thank you so much. video you've taken of yourself at a public meeting.
That's right.
And then there's someone else from El Paso County that we just have to give this award to too, because he has shown up at, I believe, every single one of these meetings and has worked more hours than I can even begin to imagine under these circumstances. And even for an elected official, that is way above and beyond and is going the extra mile, and that's Commissioner Glenn. I wish it was a gift certificate too. Thank you so much. Miss Sami has to get the picture. Thank you. And then I wish she was here. I know she's going to come, and you guys will know Kate when you see her. Care and Share. For many, many meetings, these folks, not only did they come alongside and show up here, but they stood out there for hours, and well, you know, every meeting we had a weather event, it seemed like, and sub-zero temperatures with so much stuff, and stayed from before until after with a warm hug and all kinds of goodies, and made us all feel better and shored up. And so this is for Kate Nicely. She is done with her duties with Care and Share and is about to go to Lebanon. But she's going to stop by before the meeting is out, so if you see her, you'll remember her smiling face, and you can say thank you to her. And Miss Sami, if you get a picture of that, I'll make sure. Thank you so much, and thank everyone from Lutheran Family Services, Aspen Point, Woodmen Valley Chapel, and all the partner organizations that have done so much to make everyone in this recovery community able to move forward.
Thanks, Carrie. Also, you're going to see a picture of some gals that gathered at Chris's house, and Chris will tell you a little bit about it. But wonderful Waldo Women sponsored the ice cream social, and Josh and Johns were gracious enough to give that to us at cost. So, you know, next time you see those folks, let them know you appreciate that as well. And many of you, again, have been here many times. There are lots of folks that have been down here many, many, many times as speakers and panelists and experts, from folks, Scott DeLuise at Matrix Business Consulting, Chris Rockers. There's just been an immense outpouring of folks who really have it in their hearts to try to help, and we want to thank everybody for really paying it forward. A couple things I promised Amy what I would do. As you know, I'm just a volunteer, so I have to kind of get this out. But you know, UP is a nonprofit. Many of you know that now, and they're dedicated to giving you help, free help. And if you haven't been on the website, how many people have not been on the website? The uphelp.org website. Yeah, that there is an incredible website, and if you haven't been on there, I'm going to have the website address up. I guarantee you, gang, that is what helped us and gave us hope. I went on the UP website, and it was introduced to Karen Remus through a video when she spoke up in Fort Collins. And Karen has spoken here several times. As many of you know, she lost her home in the fire in San Diego in 2003. I was in contact with Karen throughout the day, and her home is again threatened by one of the wildfires out in San Diego. So keep Karen Remus in your prayers. So UP is funded through donations and grants. They don't sell anything. They don't endorse anybody. So they're really here just to try to help. All of the information that's being provided is really education purposes, and the speakers today are doing so on their time. They're volunteering as educators, and I know Michael will appreciate it. He's not here to give you legal advice, but he is an attorney, and we'll be walking through a number of those things a little later. So thank you very much for that. Many of you have seen this. Again, this is the just a screen capture of the website. There's a claim help library in there. There's actually a site that's dedicated to Black Forest Fire. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources in there. I encourage you to go in and take a look at that. There's an Ask an Expert forum. Many of you have seen this. If you register, it's free. How many have taken advantage of that? Just curious. A few, yeah. It's great. It's totally anonymous. So what happens when you register, you send your questions in, UP staff directs the questions to the appropriate expert, and everything that you say stays private. You see their information when they respond, but they don't see yours. So it's great. If you wanted to contact them after that, you can. Again, here's just a quick little snapshot of the Black Forest Fire website. Oops. This thing's touchy. The Black Forest website. Here, there's a summary. This rolls way down. There are links to all the videos that Nancy and El Paso County have done. So encourage you to go in there. Here's a link also to Ask an Expert, and again, lots of links over here on the right-hand side, so check that out. Included in the UP website are videos, and I've listed all of the videos that have been taken for all the workshops that we've done so far. So a basic introduction, contents claim, dealing with construction, all of those are available and you can go in. Now, if you don't want to take the time to actually see the whole video, that's fine. You can also zoom through it, catch the pieces you want. You can download the PowerPoint presentations as well. So lots of good resources there for you. This is extremely important. I'll bring this back up. There's a 1-year anniversary survey. We did it for Waldo, and what happened was, as the data comes in, what they're going to ask you is kind of how are you being treated? You know, what's the response? And when Carla and I had a chance to testify at the State House to both the House committee and the Senate committee, this data was something that was brought in to show, hey, here's how we're being treated and dealt with. So it's real important that you go on. So if you don't do anything else, please check out the website, and if you would for us, complete the survey. It's totally confidential. We're going to start off with the healing and dealing portion. So talk a little bit about the emotions. The other thing, so you know, we're gonna hear from Chris Carlson, who lost her home in Waldo, Masami, who's our next door neighbor, partial loss. She's going to talk about that. You've heard from both of them in the past. Masami's been here many times. Chris spoke, I think, last month, and so they'll help us with that. We're going to do our best to get out of here by 8 o'clock. We're going to leave a good 20 minutes or so for questions and answers. So I'm going to bring people up individually, and then when we get to the end of the program, everybody will be up here so you can put the name with the face and you'll be able to ask questions. So we'll cover that. I got a couple of pretty neat shots. Karen sent me this, and she's just encouraging us to say, look, we need to address the emotions of these things. And folks deal with them, neighborhoods deal with them in a variety of ways. A couple of things that have been done, there have been kind of groundbreaking parties, concrete slab pouring parties, framing parties or stud parties, lots of things. So we encourage you to help one another, stay in touch with them. Karen made a comment, which I had up on the looping slideshow, that their group got together, their neighbors all got together, both formally and informally, for about 2 years on a real regular basis. And this is just a picture of the Waldo women in Chris's home. So rather than steal any of that, I don't know too much about it. I don't see any guys in that picture. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and she can tell us a little bit about her experience. So welcome, Chris Carlson, please.
I'll make sure I just go forward. And this actually, half of these people are Black Forest people, some people that are sitting in this room. So I know, raise your hand if you were there. I know Marie was there. No, Marie was not there. But yeah, you were there. And yeah, great. So a bunch of people were there that night. And that was, I forget which meeting that was. I think it was the October meeting, and we decided we wanted to invite Black Forest fire people. And we also had one at Gail's house too. I think it was the time before. That's back when we were meeting every 2 weeks. And just to tell you a little bit about the Waldo Women Group, some of us knew each other before. We might have known each other long ago when our kids were at school together, and or maybe from the neighborhood, but we know each other a lot better now. And we started meeting down at the community center, kind of, which we had never had before, but the Colorado Springs Together Center let us have the space, and we spent the first several meetings just kind of crying. Our deal was kind of give your name, talk about maybe kids you had, what ages, where you lived, and where you are right now. And so we kind of cried together, laughed together, just got to know each other, and there was some camaraderie. And no matter what happened, I made sure I made it to those meetings. And Carolyn, who's outside, was real instrumental in getting that group started. But and that's where I met Carla Price too. I didn't know her beforehand at all. But we've come a long way together, and I really encourage you, if you're not involved with some of your neighbors or whatever. I think there's a couple of women's groups going. I believe there was something going involved with this church too, but I'm not sure about that. They were just asking, what do you think might make sense for a healing and dealing group? And I thought, well, how about just look at a progression? This is our old house. The picture on the left, which shows the house and has the cars there and whatnot, that was actually, I got off of Google Earth, the street view. And so I was very happy to have that still. And I had the one in front because that was always my favorite Petunia area. And then I was looking kind of at Christmas. My kids were quite a bit younger there. And then, familiar picture to all of you, the fun digging around the ash pit. Can you smell that picture? You can still do it. And you can't see it from here, but my son is in the one on the right. And we were away. We were actually in Scandinavia when the fire hit. He lives in Denver, and he came down and evacuated, and then later on came down, and I was starting to hear stories about neighbors kind of going through other people's ash pits, and I don't know about you, but it felt like a grave site to me. It was sacred. I didn't want anybody messing in there that wasn't involved, so I finally asked Tim to go down. It was the picture he was holding up. It was an owl that had been my mother's, a wrought iron owl. But what really got me is when you zoom in on that picture, you can just see the tears in his eyes. And it just was a very poignant one for me to see. And my husband was holding the saxophone there, and then the other one is my daughter was still away. She was in Germany for 7 months. So. But this is Christmas time on our lot. It was a completely empty lot. We're down there at the rental, and I just thought, okay, let's just go over. So we took cocoa and hot cider and whatever, and we thought we'd just kind of do a little cheer to ourselves that one day we'll be back over there. And so my 2 kids and also my daughter-in-law were there. And this kind of shows you, is there a laser on here? I think maybe top, like the middle? And you touch that? Okay, that is my husband, 6 feet tall. And we had to do an over dig because, of course, now they're checking for clay and whatnot. And sure enough, we had that too. Why not? When the house burns down, you have all the other problems too. And so I'm sure the neighbors thought we were building a Walmart. I mean, it just seemed ridiculous. And we called this the destruction phase. Because then pull out all the roots of even the blackened out trees. For some reason to me, the burn-up stuff, there was like hope that one day I'd go over there and be back to normal or something. But at this stage, this was the hardest for me, was that just cleared, dig down, how could you possibly even imagine a house there? And then, all that dirt up in the back. And then just starting through construction. It's a little more hopeful. That's our finished house. We didn't have any landscaping yet there. This was actually taken at, we were back in, so I've got the petunias there, but it didn't quite feel like home yet because we don't have, I've always had petunias in the front because that's what takes that full sun. And then this is the Christmas this year. Back at home with a fireplace. I had to re-knit all those stockings. My godmother had made mine, and I'm almost 63, and I still had it, and my mother had made my husband's and my 2 children's, and so I just figured it out. I had to find patterns on the internet and whatnot, but for me, that's what made Christmas Christmas, was having those same stockings, and we made one for our daughter-in-law, and as soon as I find out the name, I'll be knitting another one because, whoop. Here we go. Have the laser here? Yes. That's my son Tim, my daughter-in-law Molly, and my daughter Molly, but Tim and his Molly are expecting a baby in October. So that's kind of like full circle for us. And I just encourage you, I asked some of the Walden women to send me some thoughts that they had, and encouraging thoughts, and I meant to bring them, but I am covering for a principal finishing out the school year, and I have been otherwise occupied, so I forgot to bring the paper with me. But the gist of it is really about finding new friendships, taking care of yourself. Do what you used to do that calmed you down. For me, it was walking, and just maybe getting out in Valley Park or whatever. And I know you all is probably walking around your land and whatnot. That's hard to do. But get yourselves out in nature, or do what it is you used to do that really brings you back to a center, and it will be so valuable. And if you're facing that wall, not being able to get your contents list done, work on it a little bit, then go do what makes you feel good so that you can come back to it and just keep at it and just keep talking to yourself. Do that self-talk so you're feeling really good about yourself. And good luck to all.
My name is Masari, and you have probably seen me at the check-in counter many times over. I was there quite often with some other ladies there. Oh, hi, Judy. I just saw my friend. And I'm a partial loss survivor, and I wanted to tell you the story of my 2 years from the time of fire. Not many people really understand this, but surviving partial loss is just as hard as surviving total loss. Harder in some ways because it's hard to prove that there's anything wrong with your house. You understand that's a partial loss survivors? Okay, so if there is a ash, debris, the insurance company can't say, oh, your house didn't burn, it's all fine. They can't say that. But in my case, I'll show you, but my house on the outside looks just fine. But there were a lot of things that went wrong that we discovered, you know, like a month and year into, from the fire. And we had to fight with the, in my case, farmers insurance for a long, hard fight. And that, in that sense, partial loss surviving and trying to get back into your normal life is very, very hard life. So this is before the fire, and you can see that's my house, and this is Steve Price's house. There he used to be, and he and his wife and his daughter and his little dog. Always barked at my dog. She likes my dog, but whenever she sees him, she barks. I know, it's funny. Okay, after the fire, here's my house, and here's Steve's house. Look at that, everything is burned all over. Our house is in a section of Brogan's Flat that had 12 houses, 8 houses are gone. It's one of the worst hit area. And this is another picture of my house. And here's Steve's house. He used to call it, okay, let me say this correctly, ash hole. And I have to say it slowly so I don't get bleeped out by it. That's his trademark expression. We were in San Francisco when the fire broke out and the neighborhood was burning. So we were lucky we didn't see the fire coming to our area. A lot of neighbors did. And after I come back and I talk to the neighbors, and I can see in their face, like they have traumatic experience. It's a PTSD. Their eyes glaze and they just not there while I'm talking to them. I can tell they had a hard experience. I didn't see it. I was lucky. The first day back, and I mean, on the surface, you can't tell anything is wrong with this house. It just looks normal. But if you look into this side, that was Steve's house, and then all around us, all three sides of my house were burned. It is just so hard to tell. That's why the insurance company gave us so much trouble. You said, you just have a house. It's fine. It's just an old house and it's not of good quality, so it's just fine. I'm not going to pay you anything. Go live your life. That's pretty much what they said initially. And this is the only thing that burned. That's a window well that is facing the side of Steve's house. Everything else in the house was there, but we took a lot of heat and smoke damage. And we didn't know it when we just moved back to the house. Looks like everything was fine. We'll just do the cleaning and we'll be fine and we'll keep going on with our life. That's what we thought, but we had an interesting journey since then. Okay, so this is, okay, across the street from us, all the houses are burned, and we had new neighbors. This is like a street over from us. We didn't know that these neighbors were there because there were a lot of trees and houses blocking our view, and all the trees and houses were burned. So now we have a new neighbor's view. And you can see, I hope you can see, these are double rainbows. I thought it was a nice picture. It rained a week after we went back. And I don't know why it didn't rain when it needed to. Okay, so here is the picture. I wanted to show you what we found month into living in the house. Okay, it may be harder to see. Oh, no. How come it's not going back? Oh, there you go. All these areas, if you pay close attention, these are the vinyl sash, but it's all warped like this, and it's not containing the air from outside. So we were exposed, and we saw a lot of ashes on the windowsills, and we knew that the window wasn't in this shape before the fire. And this is where our fight started with farmers insurance. We said, we need new windows. All the windows in the house are bad. And we found papers from window companies that over 140 degrees, they think that it's not an integrated unit is no good anymore. So we went after an insurance company, and they said, you just have an old crappy window, so go live your life. So that's what they said for a long time. But we had an engineer out looking at it twice, and they denied it twice, and we weren't going to take no for an answer. So the fight goes on for us. Let's see. Do I have to point to something? It's stuck. Sorry, technical difficulty. So anyways, there are other evidences that we have noticed after the fire, such as we're going to show the picture when we can. The aluminum portion of a tile roof. Some of the portion of the tile roofs are metal, where the roof vent is installed. Oh, here it is. You can see all these warped metal, and these are asphalt that should be underneath these metal, and that's seeping out, and it's melted. And according to farmers insurance, these are all according to the sloppy installation that was done initially. Can you believe that? They have a law to say that? So, and the next one, okay, it's working now, thank you. As time went by, we start seeing more and more cracks on the stucco. We didn't see it first, but I think when the temperature changes and it goes through the seasons, it's shrinks and expands and shrinks and expands and it cracks more. That's what we think. And the thing is, we have more cracks on the side of the house that is closer to Steve's house. Steve's house is the closest house that burned from our house. Some sides are fine. Only particularly that side has a real big damage. And they say, oh, because we have sun exposure on that side, it's nothing to do with the fire. That's what they said. So, well, anyway, I wanted to talk about, I know we have spoken before, but we had to fight for a good year before farmers gave up and decided to pay for everything we asked for. But that was a very, very hard fight. We had a stucco tile roof. Stucco was stripped, tile roof, new windows, which we are really happy with. And inside we had a new paint and a new carpet. And I think there are other things that was done too. And I wanted to talk to you. I think a lot of people here talked about how to get money from insurance. There are a lot of things you can do. I wanted to talk about renovation. Okay, so renovating existing home is 10 times harder than building a new one. And you can attest to that, whoever went through it. Because you have to, it's not, okay, Carrie said this, it's not in the logical order, right? You just have to fix what it's there, and it's very, very hard. And it makes a big mess of existing things, and you have to clean up later. And we went through that process, which is our stucco got removed, and this is after that. But you can see, okay, these are normal wood OSB board, sheeting board, what they call. But these black things are called Celotex board. And I had no idea what that was, but it was used in 90s very, very regularly. And then it's approved by building department, so nothing is wrong with it. But after we ripped off the stucco, it's like a paper thin, and it gets a hole in it. It doesn't do anything for us. So after we ripped off the stucco, we had to talk to the farmer's agent, farmer's adjuster again, to get the supplemental payment, because it won't be right to put stucco back on this paper to make a house. So we had to do some work there too. Okay, so the lesson is that for partial loss people, if you open up to fix something, you don't know what you will see inside. So you have to be ready to do more claims and keep going on. So just be ready. And I would like to recommend strongly anyone who's partial loss to extend their deadline. If you have a deadline, like 1 year deadline, and you think you're all paid, but you don't know what would happen after you start the work. You may start seeing, like some people open up the wall and saw all these wires all half melted that needed to be replaced. Those kind of things you start to see it happen. So, and I wanted to talk about the contractors, because a lot of people ask me about how to pick a contractor. Okay, there are two kinds of contractor in the book. The reputable, good contractor who will honestly do a good work. The second one is a sales-oriented contractor who can sell and who's willing to talk to insurance company, do the dirty work, but not quite sure if they do a good job. And I ended up hiring type number 2 and had a really hard time during that time. So I recommend for insurance purposes, maybe you need help from type number 2 to get through. but you want your house to be fixed by some reputable contractors, and they usually do not want to fight with insurance companies because they get enough job without doing anything dirty like that. So I think if I were to do it again, I'd probably hire number 2 on the condition that I would pay him for his consultation, and I may or may not hire him. If I hire him, then the consultation fee will be covered by the fee for the fix. But if I don't hire him to do the fix of the house, then he can go away happily with the fee I paid. That's how I would play right now, knowing what I know. And this is after 5 months of renovation of the exterior. Our grass was totally dead. You don't see any grass at all. It's like a bare ground. And I also have to call my insurance company again to get the sod installed. It's called the secondary damage from the work that was done. So those kind of things happen. So you have to keep going with the claim and watch out for what happens during renovation. And here is the picture of my house with the new stucco, with the new window and new roof. And it was quite a journey to come here. It took almost 2 years, but I think it was a worthwhile journey. I learned a lot, and I hope that the other partial loss survivors keep fighting and get the good result too. So I think it's a worthwhile to fight for. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Sumner. All right, Megan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Megan. I'm with Black Forest Community Support Team through Aspen Point. This is Michael in the back. He's our newest team member. I'm sure you guys have seen our blue shirts. We wear them every day. We're out in the forest. We have pictures of ourselves out in the forest in these shirts. But just to let you guys know what we do a little bit, we provide crisis counseling and support services to everybody who was affected by the fire, whether that meant you had damage or not. So if you know of anyone who is having a difficult time, especially as the anniversary approaches, as well as fire season approaches, please know that we are here to provide free crisis counseling through Aspen Point. As well as if you're looking for more intensive therapy, we can help provide referrals, as well as other resources for that. So what we're doing right now, what we have been doing, what we're doing right now, right now we are doing outreach out in the forest, so you may see us coming up to your door. What we're doing is we're just checking in on everybody. We're giving out some materials on grief rights, resource lists, as well as just checking in on your own wellness. So we're coming up to doors, we're knocking, we're checking. We just want to talk with you guys and know that we are here to support you. Something else that's kind of cool that we're doing actually this weekend, some of you may have heard of it already. It's called Ashes to Memories. Has anybody heard of that yet? A couple of people? Awesome. So I will have a couple flyers in the back if you're interested. What we're asking anyone who is interested to do is to bring their treasured rubble from the fire and to make an art piece. We are actually partnering with the Colorado Fine Arts Center, and we're going to have this conference, or we're going to have this workshop at La Forêt. So this Saturday from 12 to 3, and we're going to provide all of the materials needed to make just something special for you to just take home with you. Something to help you kind of move forward and still be able to treasure those items that you've lost. So that's coming up this weekend, and again, we have some brochures that we'll have in the back for you guys. If you're ever in need of any sort of support or counseling or referrals or resources, please let us know. Our grant, we will be around until August, and that's when our grant actually ends. But of course, Lutheran Family Services, Crosses for Losses, and Black Forest Together will also always be there to provide support. So feel free at any time to reach out to us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan. All right, Denise. Here, I'll pass this out.
Hi, my name is Denise Dawson. I'm with Woodmen Valley Disaster Response, and we're here to provide long-term recovery to the folks who've gone through the Black Forest Fire. I spent a year and a half working with the Waldo Canyon fire folks. I was evacuated from Waldo Canyon Fire, and the little smoke inch I had, I was able to clean myself after that. It was a hard time for the folks that part of town, and it happened to y'all. It made us all want to come over and help y'all too. So we set up on November 4th. My office was in the fire station, and yesterday we moved to Subway, the suite next to Subway, so I'm in the office building now. We're hosed with Black Forest Together. Nancy's in the back there, one of the volunteers back there. But we're here to help you folks out. If you want to come see me, I've got access to different nonprofits who have lots of money to help you guys get through the financial part of your recovery. I will need to see your financial statements. I'll need to look through your insurance paperwork to see where you're actually underinsured at and to see where your needs are at. We can do a lot of stuff to help you folks. We can help repair and restore your burned houses. We can also help with fire-related medical issues. And for those of you who's coming on the 1-year mark right now, if you don't get the extension for your temporary living expenses, you can come see me, and no promises, but I'll see if I can get you some money to cover that expense that the insurance company doesn't cover for y'all. I've opened 73 cases so far for the Black Forest Fire folks, and Peggy, my boss, and I did 297 cases for the Waldo families. So come see me. The number's on the flyer I just passed around. When you call that number, it's at my desk, and I will then take your name and number, get to one of my volunteers named Hal. His job is to set the appointments for me. He's a Waldo Canyon Fire. His house burned down there too. Another one of my volunteers, Cheryl, her house burned in Waldo Canyon Fire also. So I've got some real good folks in the office that understand what y'all have gone through. So give me a call. If you have any questions, I'll be back afterwards to answer questions also. So hope you come by and see me and see if I can't give you a hand with some stuff.
Thanks, Denise. Can you believe Masami still talks to me? All right, let me catch up here. Really appreciate all the folks that from Aspen Point who've all been around since the first day, and thanks to Denise from Youth and Family Services. We really appreciate that. I'm going to try to set up a little bit of the next session. So there are some really critical deadlines in your policies, and everybody's policy is different. So Mike's going to talk more about those deadlines when he comes up. But because we're coming up on that 1-year anniversary, you want to be very conscious of that. By now, it's probably very different from the first time I saw you at the very first one of these Roadmap to Recovery workshops. But today, I suspect every one of you know what your anniversary date is. Is that true? Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have to tell you. And that's something that's just ingrained in you, and you'll never forget it. So, real critical. You've got a possible additional living expense benefits that may be expiring. Some of the policies have got 2-year provisions. Does anybody not know what their provisions are with respect to their additional living expenses? No one? Okay. All right, so that's something, just be very cognizant of that. Oftentimes at the 1-year anniversary, you're going to be looking at how to collect full replacement values. Submitting your final proof of loss, I'll talk very briefly about that. Mike's going to come up and talk more about right to sue and the statute of limitations as it relates to the most recent legislation that was passed in 2015. So one of the things that you're going to find is that there will be media coverage. So as this date comes on us, we're talking now a matter of weeks, and so it's coming up on us. So there will be media coverage, and so there's an opportunity. If you get in front of the media, I can tell you, I mean, it seems like almost a sad thing to say, but we were very active. We, as I mentioned earlier, we went up and spoke at the legislature and testified to the 2 committees. I think I was on the news 4 or 5 times. It made a difference. I remember sitting in the lobby waiting to go into the Senate Conference Committee with the head lobbyist for our insurance, and we had American Family, and he said, I saw you on the news. And I said, good. Yeah. So that's real important, guys. There's a great opportunity. You know, it's not the time to go ballistic, but there's an opportunity to say, hey, look, here's what's happening, and you will get media coverage. Some of the common reasons, you know, I like to say, and I don't paint every insurance company the same way. I think that it has a lot to do with the luck of the draw of the adjuster. But, you know, in our case, it was really three things: delay, deny, and ignore. Can anybody relate to those things? Yeah. Delay, deny, and ignore. That was really common for me. I counted up on every single thing where I requested an extension. I was denied 7 times. 7 times. And when they deny, that's a what? That's a delay. Does that make sense? So if there's a delay, one of the things that Mike's going to talk about is this deadline. If they've delayed you, then you're entitled, or should be entitled, to some kind of relief in terms of these deadlines that come up. You may have personal circumstances, and you're going to have to document those. If there are weather delays, those are legitimate reasons for why you haven't finished your construction or other things. So you want to make sure you document all those things. I actually went in and documented again things like weather days, winter, etc. So if you do need an extension, make sure you're very specific about why you need and deserve an extension on these ALE benefits, or for any extension. You want to go back and refer to your claim diary. Since the very first day, we've been talking about the importance of maintaining a claim diary. And then ask for a written response from your insurance company, but you need to put a reasonable deadline. I'd expect to hear back from you within this period of time. It needs to be reasonable. So, and Mike will probably have a chance to address that reasonableness aspect as well. All right, so there are a number of sample letters contained on the United Policyholders website, so you can go in and see samples of those letters. If you need help, you can actually download those, copy them right in, and send them off. There's a DORA bulletin. I won't get into all the details in there, except here Amy Bach at United Policyholders has given a couple of bullet points. She's saying that the insurer must explain and warn before the ALE expires. I know Mike will probably talk about this. The thing about these DORA bulletins is they're not binding on the insurance company. So when they say things like you must, mean they're telling the insurance company you must do this. I think the insurance companies in some cases close the door and kind of chuckle that, well, you know, they know they're not binding. DORA expects them to be flexible with respect to replacement cost deadlines, and then perhaps by extension also on the ALE. So there is a copy of the bulletin on the UP website, so I encourage you to go and look at it. It looks more daunting than it is. There's only a few bullet points. I think there's 5 bullet points. Pretty easy reading to be able to get through it, so I encourage you to go and look at that. Before I turn it over to Mike, I want to just give you a little bit of experience in dealing with your proof of loss. How many people have totally completed their proof of loss? Anybody? That doesn't surprise me a bit. So it took us quite a while to do that. I broke as I've told you in the past, broke our claim down into my dwelling, into our contents, and then, you know, once we kind of got to the end of the rope with our insurance guys, I made a conscious decision to wait until the 365th day at 10 p.m. to push my ALE claim to them. Because I knew that at that point, with however many thousands of items that we had claimed, they wouldn't possibly be able to get to it in the 2 hours remaining in the first year. So they had to deny it. And of course, that sets up a whole different series of circumstances. And eventually it proved to be a pretty good strategy for me. They came back and said, you know, we asked them initially, will you settle on the ALE? Oh, we never settle. Guess what they did? They came back to us and offered us a settlement. And I came back up at, I don't remember what it was, 30-40% increase from that. We got substantially more than we thought we would get. And I think that strategy worked out pretty good for us. So a couple things. On your proof of loss, and this is language right out of the American Family Policy. Mike may be able to address this. They're all different, but they're similar. So in our case, the date, time, location, and the cause of the loss, whatever interest you have, as well as those that talks about encumbrances, they're talking about lenders there. They want you to tell them what the actual cash value is and the amount of loss of each item damaged or destroyed, the actual cash value. Okay? So replacement cost, versus actual cash value. Another way of saying that, that's the depreciated value. So I was pretty cagey about that. I've talked about that in the past. If you want to hear more about that, go back into the personal property claims section, take a look at that video, because I give you some pretty good tips if you haven't finalized your claim on your contents in terms of the strategies that we use to successfully hit our policy limits. You're required to give them any other insurance that may offset their liability. And then there's some other things, changes, etc. Also, in this case, they asked for plans and specs. We actually gave that to them the day we were able to get through the National Guard. And notice that it says, we may request. So it says the plans and specs of any damaged dwelling or structure we may request. In my case, even though I handed those to them on the very first day that we could drive through the National Guard, they never specifically requested plans and specs. So read your policy very carefully to see what that language says about what you're required to do. I made a checklist of these things because that is a requirement of the proof of loss. If you don't meet those requirements, you'll get a rejection. And you don't want them to come back and say, we're rejecting because you didn't do what you said you were supposed to do. We have to provide detailed estimates for the repair. There's been other UP roadmap to recovery workshops on that. You may want to go back and look at the construction 101. Take a look at that. A lot of good tips there as well. They're looking for receipts for any increased costs, and that's an important thing. This word increased cost, Mike's going to talk about this as well. To maintain your standard of living, So increased costs, that doesn't mean they pay all the costs, that just means they pay the increased costs out of your additional living expenses. And then, additional supporting documentation. So with that, and again, I've covered many of those things in the past. That's a quick summary of your proof of loss. I want to bring up a friend of mine. I've known this guy a long time. He and I met each other while sitting on the board together, partners in housing, and he's a good friend and a great guy. So Mike, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Here's my handle. There he goes. All right. It's funny. I was talking to my oldest sister, who lives in Oklahoma City, of all places, and she was telling me. Can you hear me? Okay? No. Up closer. Okay. All right. It works. Okay. Anyway, she was. I was recently talking to her about that, and she was saying that she was getting to the point of dreading living in Oklahoma during April and May and June because of the tornadoes. And I told her, my response was, I'm starting to get tired of living in Colorado during June. That's usually the start of mountain climbing season for me, and we've dealt with fires 2 Junes in a row. So it can wear on you. And I have to sit here and tell you, I comfortably sat in the north end of Colorado Springs, the old north end, away from the fires, and could see them from my house, but didn't affect me all that much. So anyway, a little bit of background, reviewing contracts, and I'll try not to repeat a lot of the material that Steve just went through. One of the things, though, that I thought is important in the pursuit of insurance claims is being an attorney. I'm used to confronting people. You just learned that. And you have to realize if you're comfortable about, confronting people or not confronting people. Steve Price is comfortable with confronting people. I know Steve. I sat on a Partners in Housing board for years, and we're at the same mold where we're comfortable with that. So what I'm getting at is, if you're dealing with an insurance company that's dragging their feet, not cooperating with you on working with something, and you're not a confrontational person, get somebody who is. Of course, my fallback is hire yourself a lawyer. That's what we're supposed to be doing, is confronting people. And that's what we do. Now, that doesn't mean you need to file a lawsuit and so forth, but get somebody who can jump in and confront somebody on any issue. Public adjusters, they're used to doing that as well. So I realize people have comfort levels of doing this or not doing it. Oddly enough, I have a background that actually proved to be a pretty good background for what I did. Is before I went to law school, I was an insurance adjuster. And then I represented insurance companies for a good 20 years after that in any number of lawsuits. I actually represented Farmers Insurance for 20 years, believe it or not. Now I'm on the other side of the ball. I pursue them. So, yeah. And I just settled a smoke damage case farther down the neighborhood from you against Farmers Insurance and dragging their feet and everything else. So, and Steve's right. Some insurance companies treat their people a little better. Some adjusters are better than others. So, you know, you can't whitewash the whole thing and say, okay, these guys are bad, these guys are not bad. It varies. It varies. And you have to use your own judgment to figure out who you're dealing with. So additional living expenses, if you're on it right now, you're running into a deadline. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the new act to make it retroactive. And there's some language at the bottom that talks about when your claim accrues and all, but I'm not terribly convinced that it's retroactive. The lawmakers may have said that and thought that and tried to put that in the law, but it didn't contain the magic words for me in the statute saying it's retroactive. So that bothers me. Don't take a lot of comfort in that new law because most legislation is prospective. It's got an effective date, it goes forward. It normally does not go backwards. Remember in the civics class we learned about no ex post facto laws. The same concept applies. So you're running into deadlines there, so you need to start talking about that. If you need an extension, ask for one. If they don't want to give you an extension, ask for an explanation. If they don't give you an explanation, then you're going to have to deal with it. Sometimes filing a lawsuit is how to deal with it. And Steve's right. For additional living expenses, it's not they'll pay all of your living expenses, it's the increased cost of pay. And so receipts, of course, you've all learned the value of keeping receipts because they want to know, what you've spent. And always, if you can, try to give advance notice of any changes, any changes at all. No one likes surprises. Insurance companies hate surprises. So if you can give any kind of advance notice, do so. Replacement costs, this was kind of, you pretty much talked about this. As far as contents goes, usually houses are, the structure itself, that's usually a replacement cost concept. So that's pretty clear. But sometimes contents can be replacement costs, sometimes they're actual cash value. And you really have to look at your policy to figure out what you have. I remember sitting in a clinic with people who were faced with, okay, I've been presented with proof of loss, and it's a little intimidating to figure out, well, what did I lose in my house? And I told them, walk around, just sit and go from room to room in your mind, thinking, what was there? Where was it? I remember talking to people who lost, for example, they had sheds where they had all kinds of tools. And I said, well, go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, walk around, look at all the stuff that you had in that shed. It'll remind you of what you had in that shed. You can also see prices of what it will cost you. And one of the things is, as far as comparing your insurance policy with somebody else's is, don't get in the trap of thinking because your neighbor's policy read one way, yours reads the same way. Or one carrier handled something differently than yours. We lawyers like to refer to that as barstool advice. You still have to look at your policy. You can't depend on, well, if it worked for so-and-so, it has to work for me. That's not necessarily the case. So you really have to look at that. And one of the things about, if there's any kind of discussion about replacement costs, depreciation amounts, and so forth, there's always room for argument in those areas. There really is. There's no right or wrong answer in those areas at all. And I threw this in just because this is kind of the standard. If your insurance policy just isn't terribly clear about what you have, what you don't have, any ambiguity in an insurance policy is construed against the insurer. Okay, that's a very basic concept in insurance law. They wrote it. You didn't contribute to the writing of it. So that's one of the things you can always kind of fall back on and rely on, is remind the person, if anything's ambiguous in your policy, it's to be construed against them. And they really don't like to hear that. You've kind of passed through this. I had this on the board, but you've probably already passed through the decision of whether you're going to rebuild or move elsewhere. And I thought you probably all passed that. You might not be, but you've probably done that, so not much need in talking about it. Again, refer to your policy, but I don't think we need to talk about this particular. Sometimes policies require you to rebuild at the site. Other policies allowed you to build elsewhere. A friend of mine whose house burned in the Waldo fire, he just couldn't bring himself to rebuild. He just had to go somewhere else. And for some people, that's how they have to deal with it. Suits against us. This is a peculiar little clause in most insurance contracts that you kind of, in effect, have to ask for permission to sue the insurance company. So it's a peculiar thing. And to tell you the truth, when you request permission to sue them and so forth, I would actually be surprised if you get a response. So don't wait around for a response. You write your letter, tell them what you're going to do, and you go do it. Now, the contract has internal deadlines, but from a lawyer's standpoint, the basic contract lawsuit deadline is 3 years. That's usually the deadline that we go by, is 3 years. And it's 3 years from the breach of the contract. So that's when your action accrues, and you wonder, well, when is the breach? That can be an unreasonable delay, it can be denial, it can be any number of dates, and you're going to need to consult somebody if you're planning on pursuing something. But don't show up at a lawyer's office like 2 years and only 4 days left or 5 days left to a statute. Most lawyers won't touch that. You don't do stuff on an emergency basis in a law office. If people ask you to do that, usually there's something wrong. So plan ahead. This is the, I forgot one thing. I need to go back. Can I go backwards? Okay. Under this statute of limitations, there is, kind of what Steve was talking about, is there was a set of statutes that were created in 2008, and they are loosely referred to in the commercials that lawyers put on for big marketing on television. And they don't really cite it, but they kind of hint about it and so forth. And I forgot to write it down. It's called the Unreasonable Delay and Denial Statute. And it was passed in 2008, and it is a great statute for homeowners. The insurance companies just cringe when they hear this statute because it, as a distinction from bad faith claims, this is just an unreasonable delay and denial claim. And I'll give you the site. It's Colorado Revised Statute, which is CRS 10-3, 1115, and 1116. Now, what happens in that statute is that gives you a little bit of a leverage to deal with an insurer who's dragging their feet, or they've denied a claim improperly. And what it does is it allows you to get a multiple of your damages and attorney's fees. Now, if you think that insurance companies don't like to pay their own attorneys their attorney's fees, they look at that. They end up, if they lose, they have to end up paying for the plaintiff's attorney's fees as well. This statute is really a handy statute, and we did not have this until 2008. Yes? Sure. It's CRS 10-3-1115 and 1116. It's a two-part statute, and it's very handy. It's very easy to use, and it's just a very good tool to have in your toolbox because it gives you a lot of leverage. And what Steve was talking about is what happens is, from an attorney standpoint, is when you see somebody who's being unreasonably delayed on a claim, or it's been unreasonably denied, what you want to do is you want to give them enough opportunities to delay it and enough opportunities to deny it. So in effect, that's what we refer to as giving them enough rope. And so that's how you deal with it, is you ask them a couple times, they'll delay things, you keep track of the delays, you keep track of the denials. Like you said, you had 7 denials. That's a lot of rope. And that's really the way to set it up. And that's really what we do when we set those claims up, is we write letters and ask them for things, and we know they're going to deny it or delay it, and they do at times. So anyway, let me see. What's my next? This is the legal rights. It's the Homeowners Insurance Reform Act of 2013. Now, the organization whose name I can't remember, the United Policyholders, put out a good summary of the effects of this statute on your claims. And I'll just read it because it's very good specific questions. My policy says I have 1 year from the date of the loss to bring legal action, in parentheses, file a lawsuit against my insurance company. And after that, I lose my legal rights. But we are still negotiating. Does the new law give me more time to decide whether or not to sue my insurer? Now, they give kind of a long answer, and they're a little more positive than I am about it. Because they said, according to the lawmakers who carried the legislation, it does give you more time if you decide to need to file a lawsuit. Okay? I'm not sure I'm 100% on board on that, because the statute doesn't say retroactive. It does talk about how it affects claims that accrue as of May 2013. But frankly, you're going to have to go to a lawyer to tell you when your claim accrued. Because accruing of a claim is a very difficult concept. Yes?
Well, I was just going to say, we did send, a lot of people sent letters to their insurers, and you guys should do this too, to confirm whether they're going to honor that statute.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that there are several companies, including State Farm,
That's the
who
one.
have said, yes, we are going to honor that, even though they've said no to extending anything else.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point, because I saw the State Farm letter. It's just the uncomfortable part for me is if you think State Farm did it and you're an American Family insurer, don't rely on the State Farm letter. That's my paranoia, is I go, ooh, that's close. And you never want to get into a statute of limitation or a deadline problem.
Mike, I'm going to for 1 minute.
Go ahead.
We're going to do Q&A as soon as you finish, so do
Okay.
you don't mind holding the questions and we'll get one
Okay.
through it? Okay, you want to go, why don't you finish and then
Okay,
we'll take
okay, yeah, we're pretty close. But it's not as clean as I would like to see it. And that's my problem with it, is it just isn't completely clean. It's close, but it's not clean. You do have to watch your deadlines. There is such a thing as substantial compliance. So if you've presented a proof of loss and you need to supplement it, I think you've substantially complied with the proof of loss requirement. And you can add to it and that type of thing. One caution I would have to say about especially content proofs of loss is do not put something on your proof of loss as a content that was not destroyed or lost. If you ever get caught with anything like that in your proof of loss, that can actually void your entire claim. It really can. I know that for a fact because I'm the one responsible for that being Colorado law back in my insurance days. So I borrowed that law from Wyoming. Colorado did not have that law, and this was a long time ago. So that's the caution, is make sure you give them an accurate list. Don't add anything to it that's not supposed to be there. So that's my caution. So I hope I've covered everything. Good? Okay. Questions? You want to come up? Okay. Oh, by the way, I was going to, let me put my plug in before, yeah, this is kind of the, as part of the process of healing from all this is the El Paso County Bar Association was crazy enough to vote me in as a board of governor. And last spring we planted 1,000 trees at Flying W. And this Saturday we'll be planting 1,000 trees on Pyramid Mountain just above the town of Cascade. So if anybody's interested in coming out and planting trees this Saturday morning, it'll go from 8 o'clock until about 2, and we have 1,000 trees to put in the ground. So any volunteers, I got a sign-up sheet, and you can come out and plant trees.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to have you stand here.
All right.
All right, so we want to open this up to questions. And here's what we're going to do. Carrie, do you have a mic? Wayne's got one, I think, in the back. Yeah, oh, here, Carla's got it. All right, so let us know. And then I'm going to bring Carla up. Masami, will you come back up? All right, Megan, will you come up just in case there's some questions? I know a lot of them are going to be directed to Mike. And then Denise, you're here. Come on up. All right. So we'll. Oh yeah. As you're coming up, come on up, guys. Make yourself comfortable. All right. I'm going to pass this on to Carla.
Because Kate walked in late, all of us, and I will attest to this, Karen Share is something that I thought I would never use. Waldo, we used Karen Share. Karen Share has been, as Carrie said, such an undergirding, such a backbone of this community. So Kate is so aptly named Kate Nicely. You get an award because frankly you are you. You are Karen Share and you have been lovely to specifically this community. Come here. Okay, now we will get on with our program. See, we wives have always a way of kind of interjecting what we need done. Okay, Q&A, do you want to start down here?
Testing. Hello? Let us know who you direct to the question. Okay, I will be very clear. Carrie mentioned moments ago about writing some letter, and this is the first time I've heard of this, about, I'm assuming, for Mike, in response to this 10-4-110 that was just in discussion at the time she raised that. What is that? What letter should I be writing and asking the question to the insurance company?
Well, if you, for example, if you are pressed for a deadline to present a proof of loss on contents, okay, if there's a deadline there, ask them for more time and explain that you've had difficulty, creating the list. You want to be accurate, and you need more time. Be sure you keep copies of your letters. Emails are good. Print them out, and that type of thing. But ask for extensions. Don't assume they'll give you an extension, but ask for them. And even if you don't meet the deadline for a complete proof of loss, send them what you have. I mean, how can you complain? When I was an adjuster, if somebody sent me a partial and said, I'll get back to you in a month or whatever and so forth, I wasn't going to turn it down. You know, you make your list as best you can, and you're always entitled to supplement it. Say, oh, I forgot this. Think about it. If you wreck your car and they find out some other damage to your car, you know, once they get the part of the car off and they realize, oh, this is damage too. They're used to doing supplements to claims. They have to. That's just life.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to Mike. I sent the adjuster a letter and gave a lot of, I'll call it backup, and basically ended it by asking to extend ALE and to extend the time limits on the auto and house policy. That's sort of how I worded it. Is that sufficient if I initiated the right thing?
I would go back and do it again and be specific on what you're asking for. Like if it's contents, if it's additional living expense, if it's the value of your car, all of it. List them. Just give them a list. You need an extension for every one of them, and just go through the list.
And I was just going to add, I think Steve mentioned this, but we have a sample letter for that on the UP Help website, an extension letter that lists the different deadlines. And we also just sent out an email to Waldo people about the 2-year deadline, and we're going to be sending an email out to you guys with some of those suggestions and links also to letters. But don't wait. Write your letter. Sorry.
I have a comment and then a question. My first comment is about February, I got a letter from my insurance company, American Family Insurance, explicitly stating that they were aware of the brand new law in 2013, the reforms, and that would hold for the policy in the future, but for any claims in process, it was absolutely not going to go back and handle that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody else got letters like that, but I specifically did.
Yeah.
And I acknowledged that with my adjuster, and it didn't really ruffle my feathers all that much. But I did, on April 21st of this year, write a formal letter. It's pretty much a copy of the one on the United Policyholders website. And there were 3 points, and I kind of made it my own and rearranged them a little bit. But the question I had was, Mike, you mentioned the suit against us clause, and I pretty much copied that word for word because I didn't really understand any of those words.
Yeah. Well, that's weird.
It's basically,
It's just strange asking permission to sue somebody.
I first went back and I read my policy and I wrote the word, I corrected them and made them come out of my policy. So I made them exactly what it said in the American Family Policy. But April 21st, I got the letter right in my hand. And about 2 weeks, so that's been what, 3 weeks, I guess. 2 weeks ago, I wrote him another letter and I included it and I said, I haven't heard back from you, so what's going on? But the question is, did I screw up putting that suit against us clause in there and they won't respond?
No, because you know, if you send out a request for a suit, they don't respond. Isn't that a no?
The first two,
that to me sounds like no.
On my replacement on my external building, and I'm asking for an extension on negotiating and properly accounting for my personal property. But then the third one, I stuck it down third.
Right.
Mostly because so far I feel like they're cooperating.
Right.
Everything's going a little slow just because it's going slow.
Sure.
I'm part of that, they're part of that.
Yeah.
Now, they haven't responded to this. We're coming up on a month. I think it's time to give them a third piece of rope and send them the letter again.
Right.
But should I augment the letter, or should I just send it as is?
No,
Just keep sending the same letter over?
Ask them again the same thing,
Okay.
and if they don't respond, you know, for me, I put a self-serving line in there about having not heard from you on the right to sue. I assume I have the right to do it. Thank you.
Okay, and I did put in,
Well, you know, they have the opportunity to answer the question, and they don't, so you just move on.
So just say you didn't respond, so I'm assuming you're extending the deadline?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try
Yeah,
that.
see what that happens. See what happens.
Okay.
And somebody will get all excited about it, and they'll go, "Oh man."
Okay, thank you very much.
But by the way, there's one other thing. You got a question back here. There's one other thing about this that struck me was having been in the insurance business, in the claims offices and so forth. If you're a fire adjuster and you have a fire claim in your office for almost a year or more, you were getting pressure from your supervisors to get that thing closed. So use that leverage as best you can, because they should be getting pressure from their supervisors saying, you know, that fire occurred about a year ago. We should have these fire claims shut down and closed. And so maybe they'll be just a little more generous in shutting it down. Maybe.
My case, exactly, about a year later, they just had 180 turnaround, and I told them it was no. What part of no you don't understand? And suddenly, they sent another adjuster, and it was yes, and yes, please don't sue us. So I think they think that we, and collectively a lot of people in Waldo, had a good enough case to go after them and have a substantial claim. They didn't want it to pay 2 times, 3 times claim. They just wanted to pay straight to fix it and tell us to go away. And we were happy with that.
Can somebody tell me who May is? I'm dealing with my adjuster. He keeps saying May.
Well, your adjuster answers to a supervisor, and that supervisor answers to another supervisor. And so when they go and get authority to do things, if it hits their money authority, they have to go to the next step up and the next step up. And what probably happened on your case is, you know, in the first 3 to 4 months of these fires, you've got temporary adjusters coming in from all over adjusting claims. That's what I did for summer jobs when I was in law school. And so you got all these temporary people in who are there for a month or 2, living in motels, you know, and that type of thing. And then as time goes on, you're getting back to the people who are usually here in Colorado, and in particular Colorado Springs, although American Family's up in, Greenwood Village or someplace. So you're dealing with kind of the regulars now. And you're also dealing with their supervisors, because their supervisors are also starting to tap them on the shoulder and saying, this claim's getting stale, it's getting too old, we need to close this thing down. You should remind them of that. Yeah.
He says he's the one-stop street guy, and he makes the decisions, and he will negotiate negotiation and all of that.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Right here.
Yes.
Hi, my insurance company is Allstate. You're not in good hands with Allstate. I got an email from Allstate this week where they sent me an email and said, your coverage is ending. Just be aware. What does that mean?
Just, they weren't specific about what your coverage was?
Well, I forwarded it on to my claims adjuster, and she left me a voicemail, because she always likes to call when I'm at work, and I can't get to my cell phone. She's very famous for that. And she left a voicemail that says that your claim is not ending, but your homeowner's coverage is ending. Does that mean I will have an Allstate claim, but I will no longer have homeowner's insurance?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, were you a partial or total?
Total loss.
You're a total loss?
And they're supposed to start building on Monday.
Oh, they have to start building on Monday.
Well, the builder is going to start on Monday. He's been delaying, denying. He's like the insurance company.
Okay.
So I've been duking it out with him since December. Anyway, so as of June 11th, I assume I will have no homeowner's insurance whatsoever.
Did they tell you you were canceled or non-renewed, or either?
They just said your coverage is ending?
Boy, I'd go to your agent, have him explain it to you,
Okay,
for one thing.
in writing?
Yeah, and then if you're in the process of building a house, you need insurance.
Exactly.
You need to see if that agent will write you insurance for that, or if not, go to another company. Because well, I know, you know, that is a problem, I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the middle of the policy, I mean, in the middle of the claim, they're canceling people, and they're counting this incident as an incident to cause cancel, but yet it's a catastrophic disaster. Isn't there a law that precludes that?
They're going back on old ones. Any claim they ever had, is more than 2.
Yeah.
I got a $0 claim out there. They're using that as one of them.
Yeah. And they're just not renewing you as opposed to canceling.
No, that's okay, we got somebody right here. We'll come back, we're gonna try to catch as many as we can. I understand that there's a lot of people with a lot of issues, guys, and we need to use the mic so that we can pick it up on them.
And I would consider in that circumstance, I'd start going to independent agents and, yeah, you know, somebody out there will sell you insurance. And keep trying that avenue.
They got us at a level 7 through 10 out there, and we'll be Black Forest.
You know, here's another idea is, do you have a mortgage on your house? Go to the bank. Tell the bank your situation. Because guess who's got a share of your house? The bank. And the bank is going to be interested in making sure you have insurance on your house and their house. So see if the bank can step in and help you. Because they have an interest, just like you.
Okay.
My question is our ALE, our insurance basically said they terminated on September 5th. We're still not living in our house. How do we renew, ask them to continue our ALE at a year date when they basically shut it off and we're in the process of doing litigation?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Have you been papering them with, look, we have additional living expenses and we've been incurring them ever since you guys cut us off, and we're still accruing additional expenses?
We've hit them with it twice, you know, but we just basically said heck with it in our words.
Okay. Well, you might want to write them, you know, a letter or two, self-serving letter to you, telling them what your predicament is. And then you do need to go to an attorney and say, they cut me off. That could be an unreasonable denial, especially if you're not in your house. I mean, where are you going to live?
In a motorhome.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get my question answered that I asked. And this was about what Carrie said, and it wasn't policy limit time thing, which you answered for me. So that wasn't the question I was getting at, really. It was some other unrelated, specifically item that she said something as you were finishing your talk about sending a letter. And it wasn't necessarily policy limit. It was something related to the new statute, and I don't understand what that was. So I still need that to be answered, but I have an important question, and as long as I got the mic, I'm going to ask the other one. We have terrible circumstances that have delayed absolutely everything that we have faced. Okay, we're total loss. And we finally got some preliminary plans for a replacement house that is fairly close to the same amount of square footage, but the orientation is a little different because of our circumstances. And we just got an estimate that is twice what the policy for replacement coverage was on the home it is replacing. And it's almost identically the same square footage. So we feel that we're going to be in terrible trouble because it's such a big number compared to what we have, that the builder said, you shouldn't be starting building a home until this kind of stuff gets resolved. And so everything's like caught in the gears, and we don't know what to do next, or whether to keep working on trying to design a home when we can't even probably get somebody to build it because of the circumstances now. And so we don't know what to do. As I said earlier, I sent the insurance company a statement that said requesting, extending for all the deadlines. I wasn't explicit enough maybe, and I have to redo that. But we're at a loss of what you do, because I can't seem to move forward with building a house, yet I'm stuck in ALE that's going to run out, and our expenses are going crazy, and we are working, and this is compounding. And I don't know how you solve this. I don't know whether you start a lawsuit. I'm at wit's end. So any advice, please come and tell me.
Boy, it sounds like you need a combination of financial advice on what you can build and what you can afford to build. And then how you pay for it is the insurance part of it. So it sounds like
the question is, this is the replacement for that home. It's substantially the same, and we were grossly underinsured.
Yeah.
Okay? And I communicated with the insurance company 2 years ago. Questioned that amount. They said, that's fine, you build that. Well, it turns out it can't be, it's almost twice.
Well, that's really an underinsurance issue, and have you been to the website yet about that? There are certain things that you can do, but we can't resolve that here tonight. And so perhaps you guys can connect, and we can get you to raise that issue with the insurer, perhaps specifically, would maybe be a proper next move with Dora, and perhaps with some legal help. And I'm going to go ahead and move on so we can, for the moment, so we can get...
You're right, though. That is an underinsured problem that I actually saw in the clinics that the Bar Association did. We actually saw more of that in the Black Forest fire than we did the Waldo Canyon fire. And it was a very common problem that we were hearing about in the Black Forest fire. It's not a very easy problem to deal with, because the insured is essentially responsible for kind of evaluating their own insurance needs and buying enough. And there isn't real solid law that puts the responsibility on the agent. The TV ads make you think that, but that's not really the case. So that is a real complicated problem, and you probably need both financial and legal advice on it.
Hopefully it's a quick answer, quick question, quick answer. We just received a notice from our insurance company that you keep saying about extension. They're denying it. I mean, they're saying, no, we're not going to extend a period of time. You're taking care of it, kind of thing. So I'll be suing. I have no choice.
And that's really the alternative.
Yeah.
Is, okay, if you don't want to extend the deadline, you get a lawsuit.
I have
That's
to.
what they're for.
So the question is, you brought up that unreasonable delay and denial claim, and you said it was double the damages. Now, my question is what is the damages that they double? I know there's one case that they doubled, the Hansen case, that they doubled.
You know the Hansen case?
Yes, that they doubled the actual insurance policy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of unusual kind of case. What are you saying is the double the damages? Is it the disputed amount, or is it what they paid for and the disputed amount? The undisputed and disputed?
I do not know. Because I've read the Hansen case, and the Hansen case is good Colorado law as of now. Court of Appeals has made that decision. I think it's in the Supreme Court. I think. I'm not positive about that, but I think it's in the Supreme Court
for kind of the final ruling. So until the Supremes make a decision, Hansen case is what the law is.
Is that the only case that has been tried as far as doubling, or have most insurance companies had to pay double the disputed amount,
Yeah.
or double the undisputed and disputed amount? What?
Now, the other cases that have been tried have been double the damages. And then the Hansen case came out, and then it went for double the
But
available amount.
what is damages? Is it undisputed and disputed?
It's whatever the damage was, whatever you should have paid. Yeah, whatever your damages were.
Oh, was disputed.
No.
That's what I'm trying to find. Let's say you have $400,000 damages, but undisputed, they paid $200,000. Is it $200,000 remaining, or is it the $400,000 that they doubled?
I'd say the remaining amount.
That's what I was thinking is.
But if you go to Hansen,
Right, the Hansen case is
yeah,
$1 million or $2 million.
yeah, I still can't believe Hansen. I mean, it's hard to understand.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna.
I don't either. I don't think it's going to hold.
I don't think so.
And I mean, just to say, there is also, with some insurance companies, it may be appropriate to look into the appraisal process also. So go online. Actually, some people have had great success with that. So go online and check that out as well. And let me get over here. I think this is our next person.
This will be our last question, because I want to leave a few minutes to be able to do one-on-ones with a couple of folks.
Hi, this question is for you. I have Hartford Insurance, and I did verify in writing and read my policy also. It's 2 years returning lawsuit. However, when I asked how long I had to, if I needed an extension for anything else, in order to do supplementals or to finish what we're fighting about right now, they said that there is no documented time frame.
There's no documented what?
No documented deadline for finishing the claim. They said it's open-ended. It's in a gray legal area. So are there any gotchas that I need to get in writing before the year?
I think I'd feel comfortable with that in writing. You know, just you could write a letter back to them and say, here's my understanding, this is what I think you said. Am I right or wrong? And if they say, yeah, you're right, then you're good to go.
Okay, and I've already done that.
And that's really a good way to get an answer to a question is, you know, give them it that way and say, you told me this, is that right or wrong?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. I want a couple things, just so you know. So my wife Carla's up on the left. We had American Family, so if anybody is having some issues there, you might want to speak with Carla. Masami, you had farmers? Farmers. Okay. I want to thank Mike. Thank you very much for being here today. Denise, thanks for coming. Megan, thank you as well. We really appreciate it. So, a couple of quick things. We want to just thank once again El Paso County, Woodmen Valley Chapel. Wayne, thank you so much. Here's a guy that lost his own over the Black Forest Fire. God bless you. And he's going to be back in July.
I hope.
He was, you know, he's like a little kid. He's up there telling me today, he's like, he's running a tractor, moving big logs around. His eyes are lighting up. I'm like, good for you, brother. That's great. Thanks to Karen, Sharon, Aspen, all the folks that have had an impact on this series of seminars. Thanks to United Policyholders. Hopefully someday, guys, you'll be able to pay it forward like we've been given that privilege. So thank you very much. Again, please go online and take that survey. It's very important to have that data and your personal data. It's very important. That's the kind of thing that UP does behind the scenes. They lobby the Colorado legislature. Look, getting that the bill passed in 2013 was only the first step. It's like getting your foot in the door. The fight at that point was on ALE. I think the bigger fight is there's no mandatory requirement for them to insure base coverage on your home. That's a big deal because everything else drives off that, as you guys know now. So I think, again, very important that you do that. For more information, again, I'll leave this up, and I just want to thank you all for coming out. Thanks again, Nancy, for everything. And again, we've got just a few more minutes. We're gonna probably try to clear out here though in about 10 minutes. So if you have some questions, feel free to come up and talk to her.
And there's still ice cream left, just saying.
Thanks, Maria.